Can you read, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanathimirantasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yudhavadakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Vadam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishaganvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dhinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Sude Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Nama Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimade Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे.
Ribo, thank you so much, Prabhu. Okay, so today we read the chapter 35, and it is Kamsa sends Akrura for Krishna. Okay, Ribo. Vrindavan was always absorbed in the thought of Krishna. Everyone remembered his pastimes and was constantly immersed in the ocean of transcendental bliss. But the material world is so contaminated that even in Vrindavan, the asuras or demons tried to disturb the peaceful situation. One demon named Aristasura entered the village like a great bull with a gigantic body and horns, digging up the earth with his hoofs. When the demon entered Vrindavan, it appeared that whole land trembled as if there were an earthquake. He roared fiercely, and after digging up the earth on the riverside, he entered the village proper. The fearful roaring of the bull was so piercing that some of the pregnant cows and women had miscarriages. Its body was so big, stout, and strong that a cloud hovered over its body, just as clouds hover over mountains. Aristasura entered Vrindavan with such a fearful appearance that just on seeing this great demon, all the men and women were afflicted with great fear, and the cows and other animals fled the village. The situation became very terrible, and all the inhabitants of Vrindavan began to cry, Krishna, Krishna, please save us. Krishna also saw that the cows were running away, and he immediately replied, Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. He then appeared before Aristasura and said, You are the lowest of living entities. Why are you frightening the inhabitants of Gokula? What will you gain by this action? If you have come to challenge my authority, then I am prepared to fight you. In this way, Krishna challenged the demon, and the demon became very angry by the words of Krishna. Krishna stood before the bull, resting his hand on the shoulder of a friend. The bull began to proceed towards Krishna in anger. Digging the earth with his hooves, Aristasura lifted his tail, and it appeared that clouds were hovering about the tail. His eyes were reddish and moving in anger, pointing his horns at Krishna. He began to charge him, just like the thunderbolt of Indra. But Krishna immediately caught his horns and tossed him away, just as a gigantic elephant repels a small inimical elephant. Although the demon appeared to be very tired and although he was perspiring, he took courage and got up. Again he charged Krishna with great force and anger. While rushing towards Krishna, he breathed very heavily. Krishna again caught his horns and immediately threw him on the ground, breaking his horns. Krishna then began to kick his body, just as one squeezes a wet cloth on the ground. Being thus kicked by Krishna, Aristasura rolled over and began to move his legs violently. Bleeding and passing stool and urine, his eyes starting from their sockets, he passed to the kingdom of death. The demigods in the celestial planets began to shower flowers on Krishna for his wonderful achievements. Krishna was already the life and soul of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, and after killing this demon in the shape of a bull, he became the Sunosar of all eyes. With Balaram, he triumphantly entered Vrindavan village, and the inhabitants glorified him and Balaram with great jubilation. When a person performs some wonderful feat, his kinsmen and relatives and friends naturally become jubilant. Hare Krishna. Anyone can continue. Reward.
Hare Krishna. It was after this incident that the great sage Narada disclosed the secret of Krishna. Narada Muni is generally known as Deva Darshana, which means that he can be seen only by demigods or persons on the same level with the demigods. But Narada visited Kamsa, who was not at all on the level of the demigods, and yet Kamsa saw him. Of course, Kamsa also saw Krishna. What to speak of Narada Muni? But generally, one must have purified eyes to see the Lord and his devotees. Of course, by association with a pure devotee, one can derive an imperceptible benefit, which is called Ajnata Sukriti. He cannot understand how he is making progress, yet he makes progress by seeing the devotee of the Lord. Narada Muni's mission was to finish things quickly. Krishna appeared to kill the demons, and Kamsa was the chief among them. Narada wanted to expedite things before he immediately approached Kamsa with all the real information. You are you are to be killed by the eighth son of Vasudeva, Narada told Kamsa. That eighth son is Krishna. You were misled by Vasudeva into believing that the eighth issue of Vasudeva was a daughter. Actually, the daughter was born of Yashoda, the wife of Nanda Maharaja, and Vasudeva exchanged the daughter. So you were misled. Krishna is the son of Vasudeva, as is Balarama. Being afraid of your atrocious nature, Vasudeva has tactfully hidden them in Vrindavana, out of your sight. Narada further informed Kamsa, Krishna and Balarama have been living incognito in the care of Nanda Maharaj. All the Asuras, your companions, who were sent to Vrindavana to kill different children, were all killed by Krishna and Balarama. As soon as Kamsa got the information from Narada Muni, he took out his sharpened sword and prepared to kill Vasudeva for his duplicity. But Narada pacified him. You are not to be killed by Vasudeva, he said. Why are you so anxious to kill him? Better try to kill Krishna and Balarama. But in order to satisfy his wrath, Kamsa arrested Vasudeva and his wife and shackled them in iron chains. Acting on the new information, Kamsa immediately called for the Keshi demon and asked him to go to Vrindavana immediately to fetch Balarama and Krishna. In actuality, Kamsa asked Keshi to go to Vrindavana to be killed by Krishna and Balarama and thus get salvation. Then Kamsa called for the expert elephant trainers, Chanura, Mushtiga, Shala, Toshala, etc. And he told them, My dear friends, try to hear me attentively. At Nanda Maharaja's place in Vrindavana, there are two brothers, Krishna and Balarama. They are actually two sons of Vasudeva. As you know, I have been destined to be killed by Krishna. There is a prophecy to this effect. Now I am requesting you to arrange for a wrestling match. People from different parts of the country will come to see the festival. I will arrange to get those two boys here, and you will try to kill them in the wrestling arena. Wrestling matches are still enjoyed by the indigenous people in the northern part of India, and it appears from the statements of Srimad Bhagavatam that 5,000 years ago, wrestling was popular. Kamsa planned to arrange such a wrestling competition and to invite people to visit. He also told the trainers of the elephants, be sure to bring the elephant named Kuvalaya Pida and keep him at the gate of the wrestling camp. Try to capture Krishna and Balarama on their
Hare Krishna Prabhu, you're muted.
should I continue, bro? Okay.
Yes.
Kamsa also advised his friends to arrange to worship Lord Shiva by offering animal sacrifices and performing the sacrifices called Dhanur Yajna and the sacrifice performed on the 14th day of the moon known as Chaturdashi. This date falls 3 days after Ekadashi. and it is set aside for the worship of Lord Shiva. One of the plenary portions of Lord Shiva is called Kala Bhairava. One, this form of Lord Shiva is worshipped by the demons who offer skinned animals before him. The process is still current in India, in a place called Vaidyanatha Dhama, where the demons offer animal sacrifices to the deity of Kala Bhairava. Kamsa belonged to this demonic group. He was also an expert diplomat, and so he quickly arranged for his demon friends to kill Krishna and Balarama. He then called for Akrura, one of the descendants in the family of Yadu, in which Krishna was born as the son of Vasudeva. When Akrura came to see Kamsa, Kamsa very politely shook his hands with him and said, "My dear Akrura, actually I have no better friend than you in the Boja and the Yadu dynasties. You are the most munificent person. So as a friend I am begging charity from you. Actually I have taken shelter of you exactly as King Indra takes shelter of Lord Vishnu. I request you to go immediately to Vrindavana and find the two boys named Krishna and Balarama. They are sons of Nanda Maharaj. Take this nice chariot, especially prepared for the boys, and bring them here immediately. That is my request to you. Now, my plan is to kill these two boys. As soon as they come in the gate, there will be a giant elephant named Kuvalayapida awaiting, and possibly he will be able to kill them. But if somehow or other they escape, they will next meet the wrestlers and will be killed by them. That is my plan. And after killing these two boys, I shall kill Vasudeva and Nanda, who are supporters of the Vrishni and Bhoja dynasties. I shall also kill my father Ugrasena and his brother Devaga because they are actually my enemies and are hindrances to my diplomacy and politics. Thus, I shall get rid of all my enemies. Jarasandha is my father in law, and I have a great monkey friend named Dvivida. With their help, it will be easy to kill all the kings on the surface of the world who support the demigods. This is my plan. In this way, I shall be free from all opposition and it will be very pleasant to rule the world without obstruction. You may know also that Shambara, Narakasura, and Bhanasura are my intimate friends, and when I begin this war against the kings who support the demigods, they will help me considerably. Surely I shall be rid of all my enemies. Please go immediately to Vrindavana and encourage the boys to come here to see the beauty of Madhura and take pleasure in the wrestling competition. After hearing this plan of Kamsa's, Akrura replied, "My dear king, your plan is very excellently made to counteract the hindrances to your diplomatic activities, but you should maintain some discretion, or your plans will not be fruitful. After all, man proposes, God disposes. We may make very great plans, but unless they are sanctioned by the supreme authority, they will fail. Everyone in this material world knows that the supernatural power is the ultimate disposer of everything. One may make a very great plan with his fertile brain, but he must know that he will become subjected to these fruits, misery, and happiness. And I have nothing to say against your proposal. As a friend, I shall carry out your order and bring Krishna and Balrama here, as you desire. After instructing his friends in various ways, Kamsa retired and Akrura went to Vrindavana. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 35th chapter of Krishna. Kamsa sends Akrura for Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Ribol, okay, let's read about when Keshi demon is killed and Vyoma. Who wants to read? Himanshu Prabhu, can you read? Oh, Prabhu is doing something. Okay, I can read. Ribol. So, chapter 36, killing the Keshi demon and Vyomasura. After being instructed by Kamsa, the demon Keshi assumed the form of a terrible horse. He entered the area of Vrindavan, his great mane flying and his hooves digging up the earth. He began to whinny and terrify the whole world. Krishna saw that the demon was terrifying all the residents of Vrindavan with his whinnying and his tail wheeling in the sky like a big cloud. Krishna could understand that the horse was challenging him to fight. The Lord accepted his challenge and stood before the Keshi demon. As he called him to fight, the horse began to proceed towards Krishna, making a horrible sound like a roaring lion. Keshi rushed toward the Lord with great speed and tried to trample him with his legs, which were strong, forceful, and hard as stone. Krishna, however, immediately caught hold of his legs and thus baffled him. Being somewhat angry, Krishna began to move around the horse dexterously. After a few rounds, he threw him 100 yards away, just as Garuda throws a big snake. Thrown by Krishna, the horse immediately passed out, but after a little while, he regained consciousness and with great anger and force rushed toward Krishna again, this time with his mouth open. As soon as Keshi reached him, Krishna pushed his left hand within the horse's mouth. The horse felt great pain because the hand of Krishna felt to him like a hot iron rod. Immediately his teeth fell out. Krishna's hand within the mouth of the horse at once began to inflate, and Keshi's throat choked up. As the great horse began to suffocate, perspiration appeared on his body, and he began to throw his legs hither and thither. As his last breath came, his eyeballs bulged in their sockets, and he passed stool and urine simultaneously. Thus the vital force of his life expired. When the horse was dead, his mouth became loose and Krishna could extract his hand without difficulty. He did not feel any surprise that the Keshi demon was killed so easily. But the demigods were amazed, and out of their great appreciation, they offered Krishna greetings by showering flowers after this by showering flowers. After this incident, Narada Muni, the greatest of all devotees, came to see Krishna in a solitary place and began to talk with him. My dear Lord Krishna, he said, you are the unlimited super soul, the supreme controller of all mystic powers, the Lord of the whole universe, the all-pervading personality of Godhead. You are the resting place of the cosmic manifestation, the master of all the devotees, and the Lord of everyone. My dear Lord, as the super soul of all living entities, you remain concealed within their hearts, exactly as fire remains concealed in every piece of fuel. You are the witness of all the activities of the living entities, and you are the supreme controller within their hearts. You are self-sufficient before the creation. You existed, and by your energy, you have created the whole material universe. According to your perfect plan, this material world is created by the interaction of the modes of nature, and by you, they are maintained and annihilated. Although you are unaffected by all these activities, you are the supreme controller eternally, my dear Lord. You have advented yourself on the surface of this world just to kill all the so-called kings who are actually demons. These hobgoblins are cheating people in the dress of the princely order. You have advented yourself to fulfill your own statement that you come within this material world just to protect the principles of religion and annihilate unwanted miscreants. My dear Lord, I am therefore sure that the day after tomorrow I shall see demons like Chanura, Mustika, and the other wrestlers and elephants, as well as Kamsa himself, killed by you, and I shall see this with my own eyes. After this, I hope I shall be able to see the killing of other demons like Shanka, Yavana, Yavana, Mura, and Narakasura. I shall also see how you take away the Parijata flower from the kingdom of heaven and how you defeat the king of heaven himself. My dear Lord, Narada Muni continued, I shall then be able to see how you marry princesses, the daughters of chivalrous kings, by paying the price of Kshatriya strength. Whenever a Kshatriya wants to marry a very beautiful and qualified princess of a great king, he must fight his competitors and emerge victorious. Then he is given the hand of the princess in charity. I shall also see how you save King Nrega from a hellish condition, said Narada Muni. This you shall enact in Dvaraka. I shall also be able to see how you get your wife and the Shamantaka jewel, and how you save the son of Brahmana from the dead after he has already been transferred to another planet. After this, I will be able to see you kill the Paundraka demon and burn to ashes the kingdom of Kasi. I will see how you kill the king of Chedi and Dantavakra in great fights on behalf of Maharaj Yudhishthira. Besides all this, it will be possible for me to see many other chivalrous activities while you remain in Dvaraka, and all these activities performed by your grace will be sung by great poets for all time. And at the battle of Kurukshetra, You will take part as the chariot driver of your friend Arjuna and as the invincible dead incarnation, eternal time. You will vanquish all belligerents assembled there. I shall see a large number of military forces killed in that battlefield. My lord, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet. You are situated completely in the transcendental position, in perfect knowledge and bliss. You are complete in yourself and beyond all desires. And by exhibiting your internal potency, you have set up the influence of Maya. Your unlimited potency cannot be even measured by anyone. My dear Lord, you are the supreme controller. You are under your own internal potency, and it is simply vain to think that you are dependent on any of your creations. You have taken birth in the Yadu dynasty or the Vrishni dynasty. You are dwelt on the surface of the earth in your original form of eternal blissful knowledge is your own pastime. You are not dependent on anything but yourself. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet. Narada Muni wanted to impress upon people in general that Krishna is fully independent. His activities, such as his appearance in the family of Yadu or his friendship with Arjuna, do not necessarily oblige him to act to enjoy their results. They are all pastimes, and for him they are all play. But for us, they are actually tangible facts. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. After offering his respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna, Narada Muni took permission and left. After he had killed the Keshi demon, Krishna returned to tending the cows with his friends in the forest as though nothing had happened. Thus, Krishna is eternally engaged in his transcendental activities in Vrindavana with his friends, the cowherd boys and gopis. But sometimes he exhibits the extraordinary prowess of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by killing different types of demons. Later that morning, Krishna went to play with his cowherd boyfriends on the top of Govardhana hill. They were imitating the play of thieves and police. Some of the boys became police constables, and some became thieves, and some took the role of lambs. While they were thus enjoying their childhood pastimes, a demon known by the name of Vyomasura, the demon who flies in the sky, appeared on the scene. He was the son of another great demon named Maya. These demons can perform wonderful magic. Vyomasura took the part of a cowherd boy, playing as thief, and stole many boys who were playing the parts of lambs. One after another, he took away almost all the boys and put them in the caves of the mountain and sealed the mouths of the caves with stones. Krishna could understand the trick the demon was playing. Therefore, he caught hold of him, exactly as a lion catches hold of a lamb. The demon tried to expand himself like a hill to escape arrest, but Krishna did not allow him to get out of his clutches. He was immediately thrown on the ground with great force and killed, just as an animal is killed in the slaughterhouse. After killing the Vyoma demon, Lord Krishna released all his friends from the caves of the mountain. He was then praised by his friends and by the demigods for these wonderful acts. Again returned to Vrindavana with his cows and friends. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 36th chapter of Krishna, killing the Keshi demon and Vyomasura. Chapter 37, Akrura's arrival in Vrindavana. Narada Muni did not mention Krishna's killing Vyomasura, which means that he was killed on the same day as the Keshi demon. The Keshi demon was killed in the early morning, and after that the boys went to tend the cows on Govardhana hill, and it was there that Vyomasura was killed. Both demons were killed in the morning. Akrura was requested by Kamsa to arrive in Vrindavana by evening. After receiving instruction from Kamsa, Akrura started the next morning via chariot for Vrindavana. Because Akrura himself was a great devotee of the Lord, while going to Vrindavana, he began to praise the Lord. Devotees are always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, and Akrura was constantly thinking of Lord Krishna's lotus eyes. He did not know what sort of pious activities he must have done to gain an opportunity to go see Lord Krishna. Akrura thought that if Krishna willed, he would be able to see him. Akrura considered himself most fortunate that he was going to see Krishna, whom great mystic yogis desired to see. He was confident that on that day all the sinful reactions of his past life would be finished and his fortunate human form of life would be successful. Akrura also considered that he was very much favored by Kamsa, who was sending him to bring back Krishna and Balarama and thus enabling him to see the Lord. Akrura continued to consider that formerly great sages and saintly persons were liberated from the material world simply by seeing the shining nails of the lotus feet of Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has now come, just like an ordinary human being, and it is my great fortune to be able to see him face to face, Akrura thought. He was thrilled with expectations of seeing the very lotus feet, which are worshipped by the great demigods like Brahma, Narada, and Lord Shiva, which traverse the grounds of Vrindavana and which touch the breasts of the gopis, covered with tinges of kunguma. He thought, I am so fortunate that I will be able to see those very lotus feet on this day, and certainly I shall be able to see the beautiful face of Krishna, which is marked on the forehead and the nose with tilaga, and I shall also see his smile and his curling black hair. I can be sure of this opportunity because I see that today the deer are passing on my right side. Today it will be possible for me to actually see the beauty of the spiritual kingdom of Vishnuloka because Krishna is the supreme Vishnu and he has advented himself out of his own goodwill. He is the reservoir of all beauty. Therefore, my eyes will be filled today. Akrura knew beyond doubt that Lord Krishna is the supreme Vishnu. Lord Vishnu glances over the material energy, and thus the cosmic manifestation comes into being. And although Lord Vishnu is the creator of this material world, he is free by his own energy from the influence of material energy. By his internal potency, he can pierce the darkness of material energy. Similarly, Krishna, the original Vishnu, by expansion of his internal potency, created the inhabitants of Vrindavana. In the Brahma Samhita, it is also confirmed that the paraphernalia and the abode of Krishna are expansions of his internal potency. The same internal potency is exhibited on earth as Vrindavana, where Krishna enjoys himself with his parents and in the company of his friends, the cowherd boys and gopis. By the statement of Akrura, it is clear that since Krishna is transcendental to the modes of material nature, the inhabitants of Vrindavana, who are engaged in loving service of the Lord, are also transcendental. Akrura also considered the necessity of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. He thought that the transcendental activities, instructions, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna are all for the good fortune of people in general. The people can remain constantly in Krishna consciousness by discussing the Lord's transcendental form, qualities, pastimes, and paraphernalia. By doing so, the whole universe can actually live auspiciously and advance peacefully. But without Krishna consciousness, civilization is but a decoration for a dead body. A dead body may be decorated very nicely, but without consciousness, such decorations are useless. Human society without Krishna consciousness is useless and lifeless. Akrura thought that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, has now appeared as one of the descendants of the Yadu dynasty. The principles of religion are his enacted laws. Those who are abiding by such laws are the demigods, and those who are not abiding are demons. He has advented himself to give protection to the demigods, who are very obedient to the laws of the Supreme Lord. The demigods and the devotees of the Lord take pleasure in abiding by the laws of Krishna, and Krishna takes pleasure in giving them all sorts of protection. These activities of Krishna, these activities of Krishna, his protection of the devotees and killing the demons, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, are always good for men to hear and narrate. The glorious activities of Lord will ever increasingly be chanted by the devotees and demigods.
Hare Krishna. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the spiritual master of all spiritual masters. He is the deliverer of all fallen souls and the proprietor of the three worlds. Anyone is able to see him by eyes smeared with love of Godhead. Today I shall be able to see him, to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who by his transcendental beauty has attracted the goddess of fortune to live with him perpetually. As soon as I arrive in Vrindavan, I will get down from this chariot and fall prostrate to offer my obeisances to the Supreme Lord, the master of material nature and all living entities. The lotus feet of Krishna are always worshipped by great mystic yogis So I shall also worship his lotus feet and become one of his friends in Vrindavan, just like the cowherd boys. When I bow down before Lord Krishna in that way, certainly he will place his fearless lotus hand on my head. His hand is offered to all conditioned souls who take shelter unto his lotus feet. Krishna is the ultimate goal of life for all people who fear material existence, and certainly when I see him, he will give me shelter of his lotus feet. I am aspiring for the touch of his lotus like hands on my head. In this way, Akrura expected blessings from the hand of Krishna. He knew that Indra, who is the king of heaven and the master of three worlds, the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems, was blessed by the Lord simply for offering a little water which Krishna accepted. Similarly, Bali Maharaj gave only 3 feet of land in charity to Vamana Deva, and he also offered a little water which Lord Vamana Deva accepted, and thereby Bali Maharaj attained the position of Indra. When the gopis were dancing with Krishna in the Rasa dance, they became fatigued, and Krishna smeared his hand, which is as fragrant as the lotus flower, over the pearl-like drops of perspiration on the faces of the gopis, and immediately they became refreshed. Thus Akrura was expecting benediction from the supreme hand of Krishna. Krishna's hand is capable of bestowing benediction to all kinds of men if they take to Krishna consciousness. If one wants material happiness like the King of Heaven, he can derive the benediction from the hand of Krishna. If one wants liberation from the pangs of material existence, he can also get benediction from the hand of Krishna. And if one in pure transcendental love of Krishna wants personal association and the touch of his transcendental body, he can also gain benediction from his hand. Akrura was afraid, however, of being deputed by Kamsa, the enemy of Krishna. He thought, I am going to see Krishna as a messenger of the enemy. And at the same time, he thought, Krishna is in each and everyone's heart as the super soul, so he must know my heart. Although Akrura was trusted by the enemy of Krishna, his heart was clear. He was a pure devotee of Krishna. He risked Kamsa's wrath just to meet Krishna. He was certain that although he was going as a representative of Kamsa, Krishna would not accept him as an enemy. Even though I am on a sinful mission, being deputed by Kamsa, when I approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I shall stand before him with all humility and folded hands. Surely he will be pleased with my devotional attitude, and maybe he will smile lovingly and look upon me and thereby free me from all kinds of sinful reaction. I shall then be on the platform of transcendental bliss and knowledge. Since Krishna knows my heart, certainly when I approach him, he will embrace me. I am not only one of the members of the Yadu dynasty, but I am an alive pure devotee. By his merciful embrace, my body, my heart, and soul will be completely cleansed of the action and reactions of my past life. When our bodies touch, I shall immediately stand up with folded hands. With all humility, certainly Krishna and Balaram will call me Akrura, uncle, and at that time my whole life will be glorious. Unless one is recognized by the Supreme Person of Godhead, his life cannot be successful. It is clearly stated here that one should try to be recognized by the Supreme Person of Godhead by one's service and devotion, without which the human form of life is condemned. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Person of Godhead is equal to everyone. He has no friends and no enemies, but he is inclined to a devotee who renders him service with devotional love. The Bhagavad Gita also declares that the Supreme Lord is responsive to the devotional service rendered by the devotee. Akrura taught that Krishna was like the desire tree in the heavenly planets, which gives fruit according to the desire of the worshipper. The Supreme Person of Godhead is also the source of everything. A devotee must know how to render service unto him and thus be recognized by him. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is therefore explained that one should serve both the spiritual master and Krishna simultaneously, and in that way make progress in Krishna consciousness. Service rendered to Krishna under the direction of spiritual master is bona fide service because the spiritual master is the manifested representative of Krishna. Srila Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur says that when one satisfies the spiritual master, he satisfies the Supreme Lord. It is exactly like a service in a government office. One has to work under the supervision of the departmental head. If the supervisor of the department is satisfied with the service of a particular person, a promotion and increase in pay will automatically come. Akrura then thought, when Krishna and Balaram are pleased with my prayers, certainly they will take my hand and receive me within their homes and offer me all kinds of respectable hospitalities. And they will surely ask me of the activities of Kamsa and his friends. In this way, Akrura, who was the son of Shvapalka, meditated on Sri Krishna on his journey from Mathura. He reached Vrindavan by the end of the day. Akrura passed the whole journey without knowing how long it took. When he reached Vrindavan, the sun was setting. As soon as he entered the boundary of Vrindavan, he saw the footprints of the cows and Lord Krishna's footprints. Impressed with the signs of his soul, the flag, trident, thunderbolt, and lotus flower. Upon seeing the footprints of Krishna, Akrura immediately jumped down from the chariot out of respect. He became overwhelmed with all symptoms of ecstasy. He wept and his body trembled out of extreme jubilation upon seeing the dust touched by the lotus feet of Krishna. Akrura fell flat on his face and began to roll on the ground. Akrura's journey to Vrindavan is exemplary. One who intends to visit Vrindavan should follow the ideal footsteps of Akrura and always think of the pastimes and activities of the Lord. As soon as one reaches the boundary of Vrindavan, he should immediately smear the dust of Vrindavan over his body without thinking of his material position and prestige. Narottama Das Thakur has sung in his celebrated song, Vishaya Charya Kave Shuddha Mana. When my mind will be purified, after leaving the contamination of material sense enjoyment, I shall be able to visit Vrindavan. Actually, one cannot go to Vrindavan by purchasing a ticket. The process of going to Vrindavan is shown by Akrura. When Akrura entered Vrindavan, he saw Krishna and Balaram engaged in supervising the milking of the cows. Krishna was dressed in yellow garments and Balaram in bluish. Akrura also saw that Krishna's eyes were exactly like the beautifully grown lotus flower of the autumn season. He saw both Krishna and Balaram in the spring of their youth. Although both were similar in bodily features, Krishna was blackish in complexion, whereas Balaram was whitish. Both were the shelter of the goddess of fortune. They had well-constructed bodies, beautiful hands and pleasing faces, and they were as strong as elephants. Now after seeing their footprints, Akrura actually saw Krishna and Balaram face to face. Although they were the most influential personalities, they were glancing at him with smiling faces. Akrura could understand that both Krishna and Balaram had returned from tending cows in the forest. They had taken their baths and were dressed with fresh clothing and garlanded with flowers and necklaces made of valuable jewels. Their bodies were smeared with the pulp of sandalwood. Akrura greatly appreciated the aroma of flowers and sandalwood and their bodily presence. He considered himself very fortunate to see Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his plenary expansion, Balaram, face to face, for he knew that they were the original personalities of the creation. As stated in Brahma Samhita, Krishna is the original personality of Godhead and the cause of all causes. Akrura could understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared personally for the welfare of his creation, to reestablish the principles of religion and to annihilate the demons. When their bodily effulgence, the brothers With their bodily effulgence, the brothers were dissipating all the darkness of the world, as if they were mountains of sapphire and silver. Without hesitating, Akrura immediately got down from his chariot and fell flat, just like Rad, before Krishna and Balaram. Upon touching the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he became overwhelmed with transcendental bliss. His voice choked up, and he could not speak. Due to, tran- Due to Krishna's transcendental presence, incessant torrents of tears fell from his eyes. He remained stunned in ecstasy, as if devoid of all powers to see and speak. Lord Krishna, who is very kind to his devotees, raised Akrura with his hand and embraced him. It appears that Lord Krishna was very pleased with Akrura. Balaram also embraced Akrura, taking him by the hand. Krishna and Balaram brought him to their sitting room where they offered him a very nice sitting place and water for washing his feet. They also worshipped him with suitable presentation of honey and other ingredients. When Akrura saw when Akrura was thus comfortably seated, both Krishna and Balaram offered him a cow in charity, and then brought very palatable dishes of eatables, and Akrura accepted them. When Akrura finished eating, Balaram gave him betel nut and spices, as well as pulp of sandalwood, just to make him more pleased and comfortable. The Vedic system of receiving a quest was completely observed by Lord Krishna himself to teach all others how to receive a guest at home. It is a Vedic injunction that even if a guest is an enemy, he should be received so well that he does not apprehend any danger from the host. If the host is a poor man, he should at least offer a straw mat, a sitting place, and a glass of water to drink. Krishna and Balaram welcomed Akrura, just befitting his exalted position. After Akrura was thus properly received and seated, Nanda Maharaj, the foster father of Krishna, said, "My dear Akrura, what shall I inquire from you? I know that you are being protected by Kamsa, who is the most cruel and demoniac. His protection is just like the slaughterhouse keeper's protection of animals. He will he will kill in the future. Kamsa is so selfish that he has killed the sons of his own sister. So how I can honestly believe that he is protecting the citizens of Mathura? This statement is most significant. If the political or executive heads of the state are simply interested in themselves, they can never look after the welfare of the citizens. As Nanda Maharaj spoke to Akrura with pleasing words, Akrura forgot all the fatigue of his day's journey to Mathura to Vrindavan. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 37th chapter of Krishna, Akrura's arrival in Vrindavan. Rebo. Okay, now we can read six as the comparison. Hare Krishna. Oh, Hare Krishna Karti Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So tomorrow we're gonna read Akrura's return, about the return journey, yes. And they visit Vishnu Loka. Okay, now let's read six Astakam prayers. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamahadavagnirvapanam shreyah kairavachandrika vitaranam vidyavadu jivanam anandam pudivardhanam pratipadam purnamritasvadanam sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. Trinadapi sunicena tarorapi sahishnuna manina manadena kirtaniya sadahari.
मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवदात् भक्तिरहेतुकी त्वयि
Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam pudau kripa tava pada pankaja stita duli sadrisam vichintaya. Yugaitam nimeshena chakshusha pravirsya itam shunya itam jagat sarvam govinda virahena me. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtana movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious.
O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no action for them.
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
O my Lord, I have no desire to do it again. No one in number of flowers. I only want to birth after birth.
O son of Maharaj Nanda, Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet.
O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my moods choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name?
O Govinda, feeling your separations, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from us like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence.
And no one but Krishna is my Lord. Krishna remains so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace. O Lord, my name is God. He is ready to do anything and everything. So please, Lord, my Lord.
Haribo, Sri Siksastakam ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai.
Jai,
Ki jai. Nityananda
Jai,
ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Jagat Guru
Jai,
Siddhanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur
Jai.
Hari Hari Bo.
Hari Bo. Hare Krishna.